That was the queen of the night, and the queen of therapists, at least in the L.A. area, is on the phone with me now. Good afternoon, Dr. Nancy Irwin.
Hey, Mike in Illinois. How are you?
We're all fine, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Looking forward to Veterans Day we are around here.
Yeah, a lot of people are taking that day off as well. They should. Thank you to all the vets out there for all that you've done.
It's one of my favorite holidays.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about that. There are more serious issues.
Yeah, sadly. How disappointing, huh?
Yes, yeah. And
I'm just hoping this whole Joe Paterno thing can be a lesson for all of us to learn from. It's the only way to give it any meaning and to get past it. It's a huge lesson for people to learn responsibility. You know, I have a feeling this kid, the graduate assistant, who saw this heinous act, was probably scared to death working for the god of football, working for a huge honking celebrity. There's such a code of protocol around there. He was probably scared to death to call the police if he even thought about it. So, unfortunately, you know, I have a feeling that's the way he felt. Doesn't mean he wasn't doing anything but shirking his responsibility. So I hope people, if they ever witness anything this horrible, will put the welfare of a child before the love of football or PR for the institution.
or fear of your superiors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, my God, it's just unconscionable.
Let me ask you something. And often I hear about, sometimes I've even seen people who, will shout at a child in a store, you better behave or I'm going to put you in the car, or, things like that. When is it child abuse? Is it something physical? I mean, there is mental abuse, as we all too well know.
Yeah, sure.
So, but when does the citizen? I mean, obviously, witnessing a sexual assault, you have to act on that.
Of course.
But in polite company, you often see things like that. Or somebody who jerks their child, away from a candy display or something like that.
Right.
When should one speak up?
Well, of course, there's verbal abuse. There's psychological abuse as well as physical and sexual. There's emotional abuse. I would say speak up whenever there's name-calling or absolute belittling. Again, it's almost a crapshoot. It's up to parents how they want to raise their child. And, of course, a lot of people are very defensive about how they raise their child. Some people like corporal punishment. If it's in a public place, the rule is if you see someone, the police report, you're allowed to file a police report if someone strikes the child in the face with a closed fist. In other words, if it's a slap, it's legal.
Oh.
And if it's a closed fist, that means it's assault or battery. So that's the legal definition. With words, with verbal abuse, it varies from state to state. I don't know of any state who has verbal abuse laws yet, but I know it's coming because we psychologists see the damage. Physical abuses can heal. Words sometimes never do.
Let me ask you this then. If I'm offended by someone's behavior and the way she or he is treating the child, should I go up and say something? Should I mind my own business? Of course, the tendency is to mind one's own business.
Again, it's a judgment call. It depends on where you are. It depends on the demeanor of the parent. If they seem scary or imposing in any way, and if they're really angry and you feel like they may lash out with you, because technically it's not your business. But if you see the child crying, cowering, curled up in a fetal position in the store or whatever, then maybe go up to the child and say, honey, are you okay? Do you need some help? Okay. Now, the parents certainly may become irate with just that. But how can they really get mad at you attending and taking care of the well-being of their child?
Yes.
You don't want to say anything maybe to the parent. Direct it toward the child because your chances of getting hurt are much better and maybe softening the offending parent.
I see. Yeah, I understand. Let me go a little bit farther afield in a different direction, though. What if there are bad parents who are allowing their children to just run all over the store, the restaurant, or whatever? They've just got little Indians on their hands.
Yep.
And then do you say, excuse me, but your child is disturbing my dinner?
You certainly can. Or you can say it to the
and
child.
Good luck with that.
You could say it to the child. As long as you do it politely, just like you would to an adult. I'm sorry, but you're breaking the sound barrier or something. You say, don't be sarcastic, but just literally they are breaking a boundary.
Yeah. Well,
they're disturbing the peace. You know, we're here to enjoy a quiet dinner. Would you mind? You're disturbing our serenity.
let's. I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's return to the more serious subject, though, because I know you deal in this area.
Yeah.
If a youngster, say 10 years old or so, right before puberty, even usually, and that child is sexually abused, how long does that last? I mean,
The
the effects, right? Because that's what you deal with, of course.
Well, they certainly can be lifelong. It depends on many factors: the innate personality of the child, if there's any intervention, how long it lasted, if it was done with brutality, how long the grooming process was, if they like it. Sometimes they do, because I know people don't want to hear this, and it makes me squeamish talking about it, but that's the reality. We're sexual beings. Somebody touches us, especially somebody we like. Then they lure you in. It's done over usually a long process of grooming, so you're almost seduced. You're given gifts. When it's done without violence, that's what makes it more difficult, because the child feels special, they do feel loved, and they feel like an idiot if they don't like it. And we are sexual beings. When you're touched, the body will respond.
I see.
So that's what makes it even more difficult to treat when the kid does like it, because they don't recognize it as abuse. How could it be abuse? I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But you see the effects later. I always tell people it's like smoking. You don't see the damages right now because it feels good, but 15, 20 years later, when you're in relationships and you have intimacy issues, boundary issues, lack of trust, these are the things that can be lifelong patterns.
I see. And then you come in and try to untangle all of that. I would imagine, if I'm gathering this correctly from what you're saying, when the victim enjoys the sensations and the attention, and eventually comes to realize, maybe through family intervention, that this is wrong, how hard is it then to work with that person and get that sorted out?
Very difficult. And again, usually they don't see the damages themselves until years later when they are in intimate relationships. And I don't just mean sexual dysfunctions. I mean intimacy issues, bonding, connecting, when they can't ever really connect with their partner because there's lingering shame, guilt. Their psychosexual development has been halted.
Wow.
I know. That being said, let me just quickly say, when a 10-year-old boy is sodomized, very seldom do they enjoy that because their bodies are so young, and it's very hard to accommodate that, if you will. So that is generally painful. It's rare that that part is enjoyed. Sometimes the fellatio is enjoyed, other forms of fondling, etc. But the anal intercourse, for a child that age, that's rarely enjoyed.
I'm sure.
It usually requires some degree of force, and that physically hurts. It's painful.
That's I can certainly appreciate that too.
Yeah.
Let me change subjects if I may, because you were on Anderson Cooper's new program.
Yeah.
Yes, talking about sexualizing children, for that matter.
Yes, it's a new daytime show, and it was a piece covering the TV show Toddlers and Tiaras. And I was brought in to talk about the sexualization of young girls.
Now, is that clip up on your website yet?
There is a link to his show. It hasn't been edited because I'm only on there for 4 minutes. So it's being edited, and it'll be available on my website soon. Yeah.
Great.
But if they go to Anderson's show, they can access that show. It was aired on, I think, October 21.
Let's plug your site, because I was on there the other day. I didn't realize you had all those other appearances on CNN.
Actually, let's see, CNBC, Bravo, Fox. I don't know. I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, there's one fellow who has you on a regular basis. Do you have a number of those clips posted?
TV? No, they're just posted. I'm not on a regular basis on any of those shows. I wish.
Well,
maybe that's coming. Your mouth to God's ears.
Let's hope. Listen, you've got quite a collection there, though.
Yeah, I love doing media appearances. Terribly fun for me.
Well, and not only is it fun, but you get to reach such a large audience at one time, and hopefully some of what you say sinks in, and people begin to understand things a little better.
Exactly, educating the public.
Tell folks the website.
It's drnancyirwin.com. That's DrNancyIrwin.com.
And there are all kinds of clips there and all kinds of information. When are you going to come out with another book, by the way?
Well, I just had one come out this past August, so let me breathe a minute, Mike. Maybe next year.
Okay. What came out in August? I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that.
It's called The Road to Success, and actually it wasn't my whole book, but I'm one of the featured authors with Deepak Chopra, if you've ever heard of him.
Yeah, of course.
And Ken Blanchard and some other authors. So it's a compilation of many, many stories and theories about the road to success.
That's great.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon.com.
And can I find information on your website about that as well?
You sure can.
All right. Nancy, a pleasure to talk to you.
Always with you, Mike. Love your children.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.